Right.
Start the
Let's get started. Right. Yeah. Hey guys. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening from wherever you are joining from. Thanks for joining this webinar. This is going to be a 30 minutes webinar where we are going to throw some light on archiving and what is beyond archiving also, right? So some of the strategies which industry have adopted over a period of time, not just for archiving. So we are also going to discuss what is beyond archiving, right? So joining me in this session is our product consultant, Vedant. Hi, Vedant. Welcome to the webinar.
Hi, Rakesh. Thanks for introducing me. Hey, everyone. Pleasure having you guys here on the webinar. I hope you get a very insightful session today. So over to you, Rakesh.
Thanks for the quick introduction, Vedant. Yeah. So before we get into the actual topic, so I have one request. If you have any questions which may arise during the course of this conversation, so please do drop it in the Dropbox. So where we can chat box where we can take up these questions at the end of the session, right? So we have dedicated time to answer some of your questions. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible, right? So let's quickly move to the actual topic. So let's first overview of what is that we are going to learn in this next 25 to 30 minutes. So we're going to talk about Salesforce data management. Under that, so what is the role of archiving and backup? So we're going to focus on archiving and backup and zoom into archiving per se, right? So and then what is the need of archiving and how it has evolved over a period of last maybe 2 to 3 years? What is the expectation from the customer? So and then with that expectation, how data Connectiva is going to help with its modern approach. So what are the capabilities of data Archiva? So not just for archiving, also the possibilities beyond archiving. So we're going to discuss on those things as well, right? And then we will specifically discuss on one of the industry case studies. So where we will talk about customer of ours who is a leading player in computer software industry. So we will throw some light on that as well. And then finally, to end the webinar, so we are going to talk about the ROI. So what is the ROI? So what is the saving? So what are the benefits of archiving compared to adding more storage space, right? So that is what the overview of this entire session, right? So moving on to the next one. So when we talk about Salesforce data management, so and specifically under that, so what is the role of archiving and backup? So we have seen that a lot of companies who come to us, they have misconception about backup and archiving. So we want to address that at first only, so that we are clear. So what is the need for an archiving solution? What is the need for a backup solution? It is not that somebody has a backup solution, they don't need an archiving solution, or somebody has an archiving solution, they don't need a backup solution, because the use case are completely different. So let's talk about archiving first. So what is the use case for archiving? Archiving is you have to move the data from your Salesforce storage to an external storage, and thereby reducing the storage, right? So when you reduce the storage, so you are going to optimize the storage. Definitely, you are going to improve the performance, and then so this also will help you in compliance. So that is the use case, right? So essentially, archiving means so you are removing the data and then moving it out to a external storage, right? So then what is the real requirement for backup? So backup is as it says, so it is a copy and paste, right? So you are going to keep a copy of the data within the Salesforce. Also, you are going to move a copy of that into an external storage. The use cases definitely it is to safeguard your data. If something happens to your live environment, so how are you going to quickly bring the data back to your Salesforce environment? So that is what backup is for, right? So now, so where the file management comes into picture. So we already know that so Salesforce has different storages for file and data, but so these files are always connected to your data. So when you move the data, what happens to the file? So that is where you also need to take care of these files as well, right? So if you look at it holistically, so on the point of data, so you're going to take care of archiving, you're going to take care of backup, and you also need to have a solution for file management as well. So that gives you a complete solution for data management. So And archiving, so what do we have? So we have data archiver, which moves the data to say within the Salesforce into a big object, right? And then data connectiva moves the data from your Salesforce storage to an external storage, backup. So it is a simple solution where it moves the data, and then whenever you want, so we can quickly bring the data back to your Salesforce. So that is what the data backup all about. So now, when we have discussed all this, so you might have a question that, so what is the need for an archiving? So why somebody needs to have an archiving solution? So we are going to connect it to an ROI. So ROI could be not just the cost savings, but beyond that. So what are the benefits of archiving? So we're going to talk about it. So some of the customers who come to us, so some of the companies who come to us, they will have these requirements. So one is definitely to storage optimization, and then by storage optimization, so they are going to save the cost as well. So that is the primary thing, so which is straightforward and no need of explanation on that point, right? So then comes the application performance. This is one of the key points. So when you're talking about application performance, so if your application performance is degraded because you are having a huge data which is lying within your primary storage, so then accessing that data requires more time. So that means your system performance is not up to the mark. So if the system performance is not up to the mark, your end user experience is also not that great. So then how are you going to help your end user by giving them the better performance in terms of your application itself, right? So that is where it comes into play, so that you don't have to keep the all the data within the Salesforce, which affects your performance. So instead of that, you archive the data and then reduce the storage so that your system performance is also taken care. And the third point is regulatory compliance. So there are some industry specific regulations where they are supposed to keep the data for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, right? So, and then there are some company specific data, so where the company itself will not allow you to delete the data, right? So that is on the regulatory part of it. But beyond that, so if you say that there is no regulation, I can delete the data, but deleting the data is not the right option. So if you ask anybody or the data experts, they will always say that, so don't delete the data, because if you delete the data, so you are going to unlearn all what you have learned as a company, right? So you don't have a history, so you don't know what has happened. You are not able to project with the old data. So how the future, right? So because you have already deleted all the old data. So deleting is not an option. So then what you have to do is, for regulatory purposes, so you and for if deleting is not an option, so then what you have to do is you have to archive the data. And then Salesforce talks about customer 360. So customer 360, what is customer 360, right? So Salesforce says that, so you need to bring all the data together at one place for a particular customer. So, and then you have a holistic view of the customer. So maybe customer is using Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Pardot, Service Cloud. So all those are different, working in a different silo. So in that case, how do you bring everything and then have a holistic view of your customer, right? So that is where when you bring all the data, so your storage is going to definitely increase. So what do you do for that? So for that, so if you are not using some of the data, old data, so you can archive it. Still, you are able to see within your Salesforce. So how? So we're going to talk about it in the next few slides, right? So now we talked about what are the requirements for data archiving. So what are the use cases for data archiving? So what we have also seen is that in the past few years, so how the requirement per se for data archiver has evolved, right? So initially, when we were talking about archiving, so one of the one point agenda was only compliance or storage management, right? So they were looking at reducing the storage. So then came the performance parameter. So they were also looking at, they had the storage, but their system performance was less. And then because of a lot of junk or old data which was there in the system, so then what they have to do for that, right? So then came the concept of customer 360. So they wanted to have holistic view of the customer. So when they want to have a holistic view of the customer, the data what they bought in has increased the storage, right? So Then the recent trend is that we are seeing that so the reporting and analytics is something which every customer wants to have with the archive data as well as the data which is live in the system. So how they can combine and have a holistic reporting done on all this data combined together. So that is the evolution of the industry. And if I talk about the application and what is that you need to do. So what is the approach anybody should take in case of they are looking for an archiving solution, right? So I have divided this into two parts. One is before archiving and second one is during or after archiving. So what is that they need to consider? So when they are going to choose an archiving solution, keeping that, so how they can better utilize their resources and maximize their ROI with complete control over their data, right? So that is what is the focus, right? So when you talk about that, so let's talk about before archiving. So what are the things which they need to consider? So understanding the need for archiving, right? So what is the need? So when you talk to business will tell you that, so these are the requirements for me. So I need to keep some of the data live in the system, some of the data which I'm not using it. So when you talk to business, you will get to know, so what is exactly the business is looking at, right? So you need to align your archiving solution also to the business, to help the business, right? And then, so we talk about once you understand what is the requirement from the business, so you also need to identify what are the data which you want to move. So what are the data you want to archive, right? So in that case, so you are looking at the objects which are consuming high amount of data storage. So and why they are consuming high amount of storage. So can we move some of the data to external storage? All those things which you need to consider. And post that, so you need to choose a storage. So whether you want to keep it within the Salesforce in big objects, or you can move the data outside of Salesforce into a external storage. So any of the external storage, whether it could be cloud or on-prem. So you need to look at it. And what are the benefits of each of these solutions? So you need to look at that as well, right? And one more very important point is, how is your roadmap? So in next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, how is that your data growth? As your business grows, what is your prediction of data growth? So that also you need to consider, and then plan your archiving solution accordingly. So once you do all these things, so identifying the right solution depending on all these parameters, and then how easy it is to implement. So with your system is what you have to look at. So before you initiate the archiving. So once you identify a solution, so what are the things you need to look at? So initial offloading of data. Let's say you are a company which is using Salesforce from, let's say 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, or beyond that. So then you will have a lot of legacy data, so which you might not have used for 5 years, 6 years, or more than that. So how do you offload initial data? So all this data which you have not used. So for that, so you need to look at what is the speed at which I can initially offload the data. Or you might have moved from a different platform to Salesforce. Then it doesn't make sense for you to push all the data to Salesforce. So what is that you need in the live system? What can be archived? That also you need to look at, and then plan initial offloading. So, and then ability to view and access. So this is one of the key points. So where your user experience should not be hampered. In fact, it has to be enhanced by using an archiving solution. So how is that I'm going to help my user to view the data and access the data? And then, so once you archive, so how easy it is to search, right? So within the archived thing, so how can my user search the data? And then reporting. So reporting also comes into play. So can I do a reporting with my archived data? And then data integrity and ability to restore. So how fast I can bring the data back to my Salesforce. So these are some of the factors which you need to consider while you choose an archiving solution. And after that, so during and after archiving, so what are the things which you need to look at is something which you need to keep it in mind. So now, so all this discussed, so to support you on all the parameters which I talked about in the last few slides, what is the approach? What is the modern approach in terms of supporting in all those things which we talked about, right? So that is where our next gen solution, Data Connectiva, comes into play. So I will hand over to Vedant to take it forward from here on.
Okay, thank you, Rakesh, for the wonderful explanation and detailed explanation for the webinar so far. I hope you guys got, what are the pieces required to have a planning, and what are the vision, or, I would say the ideas you need to have when you start archiving. Now let's talk about, a bit more about the tool itself, like what the tool offers, what the tool can do. First thing first, the tool we're talking about is Data Connectiva, which is a one-stop solution for all your archiving needs. Now, we have an option to leverage your own on-premise server, AWS, Azure, Heroku, Google Cloud, any of your desired on-prem or your desired platform, and a database of your own, which could be PostgreSQL, MySQL, Redshift, MS SQL, and any of relational database, basically. So that's completely your choice, whichever you want to have. Now, about few numbers about this solution. So this solution gives you bare minimum 10 times the ROI at least. And so far, all of our customers have archived more than 250 TB of data altogether. We have 75 plus customers, which have many Fortune 500 customers, including we are 5-star rated. We have a speed of archiving 1 million record in 100 minutes. And mind you, this could be increased. This can also be made better. We have an option of archiving 10 million to 14 million records in a day, which again can be increased or decreased based on your requirements. Deployment is extremely fast, and then we support a lot of external database platforms. Now, what about the capabilities, archiving capabilities? Now, as I explained already, we support cloud and on-prem platforms. We support all the major databases. That's already been established. Now, along with that, we support large volume data migration. Now, let's say you have TBs or 500 GB or TBs of data that you want to initially offload. I'm going to talk about more that later, but let's say you have a scenario. That is something we can do with this app. We can automate the entire archiving process, schedule it. You can do a filter-based archiving, because obviously you won't want to archive everything. You would want to give a certain criteria to archive. You can do on-demand archiving, API-based archiving. Metadata changes that you make will be synced with the archive records. Encryption mechanism is also something that we have, which is AES 256 encryption mechanism. Data integrity is preserved, because if you have nth level of relationship, it's taken care of that. It supports master detail, lookup to lookup, junction object, self lookup. Any kind of relationship is supported here, especially with the architecture that we have. It supports all kinds of relationships. No additional tool is required for this, just our application for the entire communication with database, server, and Salesforce. And then it can also archive third-party app and custom data. Now, I mentioned about archiving and what are the capabilities. Now let's talk about a certain area where archiving is most used, which is large data volume migration. Now there could be multiple scenarios when you might require this, but I have two on top of my head right now. Number one, that you have been using Salesforce from a long time, 5 years, 4 years, maybe 8 years, maybe 10 years, and then you have accumulated a lot of data in your org, and you're witnessing a certain performance issue, or maybe a certain compliance is coming up, where you have to, or retention policy where you have to remove the data from Salesforce, but you don't want to delete it. It might be required sometime, maybe in future, or for legal purposes, any reason. In that case, you can offload huge chunk of data from Salesforce to your desired server and database. Now the data could be in standard, custom, managed package object, and any kind of relationship it might be. All of that will be honored exactly and will be moved, right? There won't be any challenge out there at all. The second scenario could be that you could be new to Salesforce, and then you're migrating from a legacy CRM, and there is huge influx of data happening. Now, obviously, it's a legacy data that you're also migrating. So you have a capacity of 100 GB, for example, and you have 500 GB coming in. That data can also be migrated to your database and server, and you can see it from Salesforce. And the architecture that we have ensures that there is no governance limit, which is a very important factor, right? Because it limits a lot of process, and we have no such limitations of governance limit or Apex limit or any Salesforce limitation at all. The capacity is 1 million records in 100 minutes and 10 million to 40 million records per day, which can be increased, like I said, depending on your server. Now, all this was about archiving, right? Archiving is what, as Rakesh explained, cutting the data and pasting it somewhere else. But data connectiva does not stop there. We are not just an archiving tool. Like, it's not barely, a cut paste tool. We open a lot of possibilities after archiving. Now, it could be, finding the data 24/7, because data, even if it's archived, it's still there all the time. That's one of the key USPs of the product. Data it's not a cold archiving. It's a hot archiving. It's always there, right? You can report on the data. You can do global search. You can bring the data back any point of time you want. So the restore option is also there. Now, let's talk about reporting and analytics. So this is a very important term in today's world. You have to have reporting on the data. Now, a lot of customers of ours have always, asked us that can we report on archived data and the unarchived data? And and Rakesh also spoke about customer 360. So what if there is a certain other source of data that we have? Can we do a reporting on that? Yes. You can use your own desired Tableau, Power BI, Zoho Analytics, ClickView, any of other BI tool that you use. You can use that. And the best part is that this solution helps you to mirror the reports in Salesforce. Like you can see, this is a data connectiva screen, and this is Salesforce, and there's a Tableau report. The report is on opportunities, which is Salesforce opportunity and the archive opportunities together based on fiscal year with quantity, amount, and other is created date with amount. And this is a very basic, report which is out of Tableau. You can create amazing, business reports as per your requirements, and then mirror it in Salesforce. Now, what this will help is that for a business user, they can still view the reports from Salesforce. It makes their life really, simpler, if I may say. Now, that being said, let's talk about user experience. Now, I know maybe some of you are architects, some of you are admins, but the general conception about archiving is that your data is increasing, or you might have certain policies coming up or anything like that. Now, one more concern, or I would say one more, challenge which I've seen with the customers we talk to is that they do not want end users to feel any kind of inconvenience or any kind of change in behavior, any kind of change in user experience, because we know that's very important. In the end, the end users, your service agents, your sales guys, are the ones who are using Salesforce. So this application ensures and takes a step ahead to ensure that a user experience is maintained. So three ways to this is how we maintain it. The number one is that we have a related list view. Like, let's say I archive certain cases, I can see it under the parent account, right? Under the parent account, I can see as a related list of archived cases. That's one way to find it. We also have a global search option where we can search the data as a search bar, where any string, any number can be given. It will fetch you the archive records matching that string or text or anything, any alphanumeric or anything. Third is for a find model for admins. Let's say admin has to find. So admin can give a query, or we have certain filters he can give and search. So it's even, a design for an admin convenience as well, not just an end user. Now, here is an example of, global search where this is, we have searched a string called Ratish. Basically, it's a name, and then it's fetching the first name, email, and it's also fetching based on the email. So all the records, contact and case that matched Ratish were being fetched. Now, all things being said, let's dive into a use case, an industry use case about how a customer made most of our solution in all the sense. Now, this is a customer who is a computer software industry leader from United States of America, and then they have one of the largest Salesforce, or if not the largest. They were using on-prem system, and they also used MS SQL Server as a database. Now, there were two scenarios here. Let's paint a picture, right? They were using Salesforce from 12 years, and they had 8 TB of data almost, or which was going to 10 TB almost in Salesforce. Second scenario was that they had plenty of data coming in every day, and it was an exponential, unstoppable growth. Now, it caused a certain performance issue and then compliance, and then they thought that let's keep the older data outside Salesforce so that they can make more use of their Salesforce org, and there's no performance issue. So that's where this customer was now looking for an archival solution. Now, we divided this task also into two steps as a solution. First step was initial offloading of 3 TB of data. So out of 8 TB, 3 TB data was immediately archived. Now, the stats we spoke about and the speed we spoke about, it was even greater because so you have an option of increasing the capacity when you want to do initial offload and then decrease it when you're doing a daily archiving. So that gives you a flexibility to increase the speed of archiving at your own convenience. So that's where we were able to archive 3 TB of data, immediately out of their org. And then as a second solution, we set up a certain filter criteria, a certain criteria based archiving, where based on that criteria, every day the data was archived. Now, what they had a challenge before is that they had 300 to 400K lakhs record getting created every day. So we had to archive 1 million record per day, at least, so that the difference between what's being generated and what's being archived is met. So that's the solution that we gave. And in the end, we were able to archive more data than it was incoming. That's first of all, we moved a huge chunk of data and it relieved their org of so much of pressure of data. They had no extra cost they had to incur because obviously cost is a major factor. And then we were able to archive more than they were being generated. Data integrity and complex object relationship was taken care of. They ensure that no data loss. We ensure that no data loss happens, even though it's a huge archiving scenario we're talking about. Objects, included were task, project, case transaction logs, case history modifiers, and 100% data accessibility. And users can see the data all the time in searching. Now, that being said, I will hand over to Rakesh. And before I hand over to Rakesh, here were some stats which we did with this customer. 1 million recorded 100 minutes. Highest archiving was 150 records per second. You can imagine like how comfortable they became after this. And then average daily data processing of 12 million records. And then ROI was 50 times because obviously the amount of data they archived, the ROI was huge. Now I think we have 4 minutes or maybe less than that. So I'll hand over to Rakesh for quickly covering this slide, and then we can take over some questions from you guys.
Right. Thanks, Vedant. Thanks for beautifully explaining what is archiving and why people look at not just archiving, beyond archiving, like search and reporting and all other factors. The speed of archiving also matters in this case, where in the use case which you talked about, because initial offloading was huge. Great. So I hope you got a holistic view. So one last thing which we wanted to cover was on the ROI part of it, right? So we know that there are a lot of other benefits which you get, so which is again an ROI, but here in this slide we are going to focus on the direct cost saving, right? So when you compare buying additional storage, additional Salesforce storage versus archiving the same amount of data, right? So if you look at it, if you want to buy 10 GB of additional storage, so let's take a scenario. Right, so you have an org which has got 100 GB of storage, and then you have exceeded by 10 GB, or you are going to exceed by 10 GB. So in that case, to maintain that 100 GB, so you want to archive 10 GB of data. In that case, if you just want to archive 10 GB of data, so your ROI is 3x. That means, so let's say the list price, if I consider, so maybe it is $25,000 to $30,000 for 10 GB of data per year, which you need to pay for Salesforce. Instead of that, so within the 1/3 of the cost, that means by spending only $8,000 to $10,000, you can implement the archiving solution, right? So that is the ROI which you're going to get. So this ROI is going to increase. So look at how it is going to increase if your data increases to 5 TB or 10 TB. It's going to be 50x. Right, so you can just imagine. So this alone will help you to push your company to go towards archiving rather than buying your additional storage for your Salesforce requirement, right? So I'm sure so this will open your eyes, and then you will explore more in terms of how it can be implemented, what is the best solution, and all those things, purely from the point of the cost saving, right? So this is going to be a huge for any company for that matter. And then you have additional benefits of user experience enhancement, and then performance enhancements, and all those other things, right? So yeah, so that's it from our end. So I think we have few questions already coming in. Yeah, let's look at it. Okay, so I have a question from what will be the what will be the API limit consumption? So that is one of the question what we have from one of the attendees. Yeah.
Yeah, so this solution primarily uses bulk API 2.0 to pull the data basically. So in that case, API limitation, API capacity. So we have also optimized a lot for higher end customers where they have a lot of data. So usually it uses bulk API 2.0. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Okay. So we can discuss this probably. So we can connect offline, and then we can give more details on this. So definitely the API consumption are not much. So we will give you the stats. So probably in the we can connect offline and discuss. Yeah. Right.
Basically, down the line API. So Rakesh, I see one more question being there. Is there any possibility of data loss? What if the data is deleted and then it's not moved and then it's deleted? Basically, that's what being asked. So yes, so this application has no scope for data deletion because that's the kind of logic that we follow. We ensure that data is first copied to your database, and once it checks yes, then it's deleted. So there is no scope in case some issue happens and data is not deleted or data is not moved, it won't delete it from Salesforce. So that's logic it uses, and absurd logic, and ensures that data is first copied and then it's deleted. So there is no scope whatsoever. In fact, this was a very stringently done check on the application during POCs especially for customers who are archiving 1 million per day. And yes, there was no issue.
Right. Yeah. Right. Thanks for answering that, Vedan. And we have one more question. Do we need any connector to view archive data like Salesforce Connect? So they're talking about bringing the data from the external storage to Salesforce. That's what they're talking about. Bringing is not restoring. So I think that is the question. So do you want to take
it? I think, yeah. As I mentioned in the very early stage itself, that this application does not require any sort of connector or any sort of external tool. We have everything covered. You just have to have this application, and then you can have the data with you all point of time, and you can see it from Salesforce. So I think that being said, I think Rakesh, we can answer more other questions over the email. We will definitely be getting back to you, and we would like to thank you first of all for being with us for this webinar and helping us present our solution to you. Now I'm sure you would have more queries, and you guys have sent a lot of questions, but if you also need to reach out to us, please get us to us at sales@dataconnectiva.com, and we would pick your questions up from there, and hope we can answer it to you.
Yeah, thanks. We are already exceeding the time, so thanks for joining. Thanks for being a wonderful audience. So we would like to hear from you. So thank you very much for joining this webinar. Take care. Bye.